pod bay doors, please, Hal.
迷子になったらどこで待つててごと母ごどこで待つててごと母ごとごとごとと一刻橋で待てばよいててごと母ごとごとごとと一刻橋で待てばよい母子がいなけりゃどこで待つててごだけならどこで待つごとごと回る馬車待たずに乗って行けばよい
The pod bay doors are open. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, as always, my friend, compatriot, my Durau sword, Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for ArmchairCinema.com and ArmchairOscars.com. How you doing, Jer?
I don't speak Japanese, so I'm just going to stand here and look at you under my eyebrows for 5 minutes.
See, I would have gone with, my son and I are on the demon way in hell.
No, I prefer the eyebrow thing.
We're talking about Lone Wolf and Cub. It's
Score one for the pudgy guys.
Right?
Man, he's like soft in the middle.
the
Ito
Ogami, former shogunate executioner.
Yeah.
Played by Tomisaburo Wakayama, who also after this was in a trilogy of movies called Hanzo the Razor, which is another samurai slash 'em up, brutal, bloody, spraying extravaganza, except he often uses sex and rape as a way of getting information. He's a police officer. It's unpleasant. It's an unpleasant series.
I'm going to use this as an excuse to pay acknowledgement to Terry Jones, who just passed. The violence in this is very Python-esque.
Yeah.
It's very blood spray. It's very
Kill Bill.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd say very very Python-esque.
Oh yeah.
When they hack off a limb, it's spurting blood like out of pipes. Like right. out of tubes and pipes. It's very very much the Black Knight.
Yes.
Yeah. And this thing, I don't know. And this was a thing for a while, but they never could get the color of the blood right. Either that or the censors wouldn't allow them to do blood that was more a natural color. Because it's always a little, the red is always a little too light. It looks like paint.
Well, yeah, and it's always too, it's too thick in the wrong way.
Right.
And it's always wrong. But
yeah. It's more like a brick red, rather than a deep red that like blood usually would be.
And it's the blood of the Wild Bunch.
Yeah, yeah. It's Holy Grail.
Holy Grail, or any of these, the Hong Kong kung fu movies. Same problem with the blood.
But we're talking about the Lone Wolf and Cub series.
I picked these
from the early 70s.
Yes, I picked these because, first of all, they're a crap ton of fun. And second, because I was watching...
fun? Okay. They're entertaining.
Okay, yeah. There's a direct influence of this on parts of The Mandalorian. They didn't take Lone Wolf and Cub and adapt it into The Mandalorian, but they used parts of Lone Wolf and Cub.
They used the basic structure.
Right, especially the second episode, the child, when he's just walking along with the baby cart floating beside him, and he's fighting the Trandoshans and all the other people coming along, and the baby just kind of looks and doesn't really do anything, and then starts to participate.
No. This is not a baby cart. This is a rolling arsenal.
Yes.
This is a tank.
Yes.
That he's got.
Yes.
This is a Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
Tank that he's got. This thing does everything.
It has bladed staffs. It has daggers. It has guns.
Gatling gun.
Yes.
It's a private arsenal.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
I wanted to see the side movie where he built this thing.
Yeah, I know, right? When he walks the demon way in hell, he wants to be protected. You know?
This is feudal Japan.
It is very, very late feudal Japan. It's post-American Civil War.
Mm.
And you get that quickly when I think it's the second one where there's a guy with revolvers.
Yeah.
And there's rifles that don't need to be, repacked and reloaded one shot each. They're not muskets here. So all that kind of stuff happened after the American Civil War. That's when all that kind of stuff started to flood the markets. So it's definitely late 1800s.
Yeah.
But it might as well be 1640.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's in feudal Japan, it's all pretty much the same until things drastically change in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same
really
in 1350 as it is in 1890, but
would you say until the reign of Hirohito?
Probably, yeah.
So when it's he tries to build a Japanese empire that will, much like Hitler, try to steamroll over the world.
Right, and they wanted to modernize, and they got the United States' help to do so.
Yeah, and they become one of our greatest allies.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
although we are still a presence in Japan.
Oh yes, we still have a base in Okinawa. We're going to talk about later in the year. In August, I'm picking two films that center around Hiroshima because it's the 75th anniversary of the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki this year. So I
kept sitting there. Let me tell you something. I watch these films. I love Japan. There's no place in the world like it. There's no culture on earth like it. I always say, thank God there'll always be in England. Thank God there'll always be in Japan.
Hear, hear.
Because I sat there and I watched this and I'm thinking, this is post-Civil War.
American
Civil War, excuse me. Because there's Civil War somewhere at all times.
That's true, too.
And I kept thinking, you know what? This is the country that will eventually give us, some of the things that will kind of twist our heads. I'm thinking this is the culture that will someday give us the weirdest game shows on the history of the planet. I'm fascinated by the culture. I really am.
Oh yeah.
Because I the whole.
Excuse me.
If you're really knowledgeable and you really understand how things work, and it's interesting that we're talking about this just after I've seen Parasite. All of these Asian countries have a different culture unto themselves.
Oh yes.
They're not all the same.
No, not even remotely.
Not even remotely. And it's fascinating when you break down the walls, because we're living in a very xenophobic, in America, we're living in a very xenophobic time, mostly because of our current leader. But when people are willing to learn about other cultures, they find them fascinating.
Oh yeah.
When you learn about people that you do not meet, you'll find them fascinating. And you break down those walls of well, I'm comfortable with what I do, so everybody else must be wrong.
Right.
You know, but that's one of the reasons that I love foreign films because I learn so much, and I'm not stuck in the American way of thinking. I'm not stuck in the American uh, sense of what film is, which is why I so love French films
Mm-hmm.
because they are willing to do things American producers would never do,
Right.
and they're willing to go places, and the Japanese too.
I
You
think
know,
everywhere but um, England and the U.S. up to a certain
yeah,
year did not have were scared of approaching reality
yeah, yeah,
because they had no faith in their audience
yeah.
and continue to have no faith in their audiences.
Joker is a real example of that. When you
Yeah.
don't know, sometimes you don't know what your audience is ready for.
Right.
Shirley MacLaine had a quote, something she said one time. She said, the public is always about 5 years ahead of what Hollywood is ready to give them,"
Yeah.
and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I would question 5 years. I would say more like 10.
10, 15, 20,
Yeah,
a whole generation.
because the marketing department can only tell you about 1% of what the audience is ready for,
Right. Right.
and these movies, if you try to sell them to an American distributor, um, they're so simplified. They're not, I won't say simple minded, but they're very simplified in the fact that there's not a lot of heavy analysis that goes into them.
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed in this series is that a lot of them are very scattershot.
Mm-hmm.
The plots start down one road and then just forget that.
Well, these are weird. Instead of setting up the story at the beginning and then following it all the way through to the end, what you're given at the beginning is resolved 20 minutes in,
Mm-hmm.
and then something related that ends up being tying in with the overall structure, because there is one through line plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
The through line plot is that Ito Ogami, played by Tomosabaru Wakayama, who was also a producer on this, on
Mm-hmm.
all of them, he had the rights. He went in and auditioned for the writer, Kazu Koike,
Mm-hmm.
who was a co-creator on the manga, and wrote the screenplays for 5 of the 6 of these.
Yeah, I was about to say that he directed all but the last one, and you can tell.
Oh no, Kenji Misumi.
Kenji Misumi, that's what I was
the
thinking.
was the director. He directed 4 of the 6.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can tell the ones he didn't direct.
Yes, you can, and in some ways that's great, and in some ways that's not
Yeah,
great.
in some ways it's a detriment.
Depends on which movie you're watching. But he was the shogunate executioner for the Tokugawa shogun. So back in this point, what I'm reading has 18th century Japan. So somehow in the 1700s they invented guns that didn't exist yet.
Right.
But who cares?
Well, let's talk about the. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm doing the whole through line. So he gets to be shogunate executioner, and this other clan, the Yagyu clan, are kind of evil, and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted the position for themselves.
Yeah.
And so they frame him, make it look like he wants to kill the shogun, and betray his oath of office. And he's set up, and his wife is killed. He offers his son a choice. His son is at the time 1,
Hmm.
1 year old. He gives him the choice of a ball or a sword, and he says if he takes the ball, he'll send him to join his mother in the afterlife. But if he
Yeah.
chooses the sword, he's going to come with Ito on the demon road in hell and become assassins and clear the Ogama name.
Very unyielding kind of
Yeah.
social structure. I was thinking about that. One of my favorite movies of all time is Harakiri.
Hmm. I love
Harakiri
that movie.
is it's a film about a warrior who has to kill himself.
Right. Oh,
It's a
I want
place in
I want to say thank you for saying Harakiri and not Harry Carey,
Harry
because
Carey.
Harry Carey was a Western actor and is
Yes,
not the
yes.
traditional ceremony of Japanese seppuku. So thank you.
It's a beautiful film about the whole
Yes, it
structure
is.
of this way, this life, this Bushido code, this whole thing where you have to you have to kill yourself.
Yeah,
You did this. No, now you got to go kill yourself
we're
with
definitely
a
doing Harakiri and
with a
probably
bamboo
Sancho the Man.
sword.
Well, you're supposed to have a real sword.
Yeah,
Uh,
they give him a bamboo sword.
well, he had to sell his blades in
Yeah,
Harakiri. He had to sell it because they were so destitute, and all he had was bamboo, and they would
yeah.
not give him a real sword to do it. Oh,
It's an incredible
it's
film.
brutal.
This one, this series really plays into that. Let's get
It,
started. Let's talk about the first one.
okay, so the first one is
Um,
called Sword of Vengeance,
Sword of Vengeance.
and that one largely what I just described is the backstory for this and the setup for everything that happens to Ito and Daigoro.
Okay, let me tell you my overview of this. Uh, this is different than the other ones. This is very different than the other ones because this one has to give you a lot of information.
Uh huh.
It has to start him. It has to tell you um,
Excuse
where he came from.
me. Hmm.
It has to tell you who he is, what the situation is, and what sets him on his wandering journey for the rest of the series.
Right. This is the origin film.
It's very plot heavy.
Yes.
Um, it starts, and this is something that the movie got off of and then back on and then off of and then back on, which is the moral ambiguity. This movie opens with him beheading a child.
Right.
And
Because that was the declaration of the shogun.
yeah, that was the declaration of
This
the
little
shogun.
lord had to kill
Um,
himself.
but what's introduced largely doesn't stick to the main plot because once he's set off on his journey, once he's sort of wandering, as Sam Jackson says, just walk the earth.
Yeah.
Once he just walks the earth, it's sort of episodic in the fact that he is wandering this land and he's there are bizarre things that happen that really don't have much to do with anything. There's a scene in a brothel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sex scene that goes on for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's a rape scene. Let me tell you something, and I gotta mention this. There's rape in every one of these movies.
Not the second one.
Not the second, but
Not
I
the
mean
second
the
one.
rape is
Pretty much most of the rest of them has at least the beginnings of a rape scene. The third one opens with
yeah,
a horrifying rape murder.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a little unsettling. It's
is.
very unsettling.
But the point, I mean, I think that
I think the point is to show how savage this world is.
right, and how hard it was to just live in this time period if you were not a moneyed individual. Um,
Right.
because this one, um, there's a no, that's not this one. This one, he's in this hot spring, and he has to go there to find out where his target is going to be, or his target's passing by there.
Right.
It's an old hot springs, and it's been taken over by a group of thugs who are on their way to do something. I think he has to stop them.
Yeah.
They're part of all of his stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a girl who may or may not be a prostitute by trade, but I think she is. And they make him sleep with her for their own entertainment because he wouldn't fight them.
Right.
And he wouldn't fight them for reasons that I'm not quite sure of, because he could blink and they'd all be dead. I mean, he is...
You can either fight or you can have sex. Oh no, don't throw me in the briar patch.
Right. Because but he does so. She's so grateful. She sees him as a high-standing samurai. She's because he still holds those values, even though he is an assassin.
Yeah.
2 years on the road. Daigoro is now 3.
Yeah.
And is the sweetest little boy on the face of the planet.
And that's his role in this, largely, is just to be a sweet little boy and have the weirdest haircut I've ever seen in my life.
Weird haircut and a sense of... He's just not scared. The way that he's been living for as long as he can remember.
Yeah.
You know, if his father says his name, he's either looking for him or telling him to activate a weapon.
Yeah.
Like... But I love...
He doesn't have a lot to do in these.
He doesn't. He's there. He has more to do with Ito's overall attitude. He does want to protect his son.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he knows that they're kind of... They're gonna die on this road, one way or another.
Well, let me take a little side road here, because we've got to talk about the women in this film. Women are treated like crap. They're treated like property. There's a scene at the beginning that's tragic beyond words. It's when Ito runs into a woman who has lost her child.
Yeah.
And she begins nursing his son.
Right.
It's really tragic.
She's lost her mind and can't tell.
Right.
Refuses to believe that her child has died, and sees her child in the face of every single child she sees.
Right. It's really tragic.
And he's kind enough to not contradict her.
Right.
Like, he's a kind man when you're not attacking him.
When he's not slicing you in half.
If you're attacking him, or he was paid to kill you,
yeah,
he will not show you those courtesies. But any other person,
I gotta say, overall, this is not my favorite, because it's so different. Because this one actually has to do the heavy work for the rest of the series, because it's got to get it off the ground.
Right. This is more of a traditionally plotted.
I'm not loving this one, mostly because I know that better films are coming. Like I say, this one bears the weight.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next one. It's called
Baby Cart and Peril.
Baby Cart at the River Styx.
At the River Styx, that's right. Peril is like the fourth one.
This is a better film. It's better constructed. Although, and this is a problem that would clear up later. There are way too many close-ups. They do these weird close-ups, especially in the fight scenes.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to create a level of intimacy, but it just gets to be too much after a while. I will say this, and this is a problem all through these films, um, that's only occasionally dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely does he ever come up against a villain to which you fear for his life.
Right. It happens a few times
It
throughout.
happens in this one.
Yeah.
Because
And
the guys with the baskets, the
right.
guys with the big hats,
Which you said were the guys from the Big Trouble Little China.
I was just about to say that, yeah. And the claw, they've got these little claws, like Enter the Dragon.
All of that is terrifying stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it? Especially when they're in the desert.
Yeah.
And they keep pulling. He keeps pulling people out of sand dunes with it
Yeah.
by their heads. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
He keeps digging
Oof.
them in and pulling them out.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, they're great villains.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
The unique element to this one, and there's a unique element in all of these,
Yeah.
but the unique element in this one is this group of ninja women who fight with root vegetables.
Yeah.
It's great. I love.
Now I'll say the women in this series are treated very poorly unless they are also trained in martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're practically deified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll get to in the fourth one, which is one of my favorites.
They're very the women fighters in this series are very spirit-like.
Mm-hmm.
They're very ghost-like.
Mm-hmm.
There is a shot in this movie that I've got to talk about.
Okay.
Because I watched this the other night, and I had to rewind this and watch it several times just to see if you know what I'm talking about. Just to see if I've really understood what I was looking at. It is a scene where he fights this woman, and she's in a geisha robe, and she comes out of the geisha robe. He cuts her out of the geisha robe. She jumps out. She's wearing this black stocking suit,
Mm-hmm.
and she begins to run backwards.
Uh-huh.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like it's so strange.
It's weirder than the zombie fighters from the sixth one.
I think this is I don't know. I think this one's because that one threw me off.
Yeah.
That one really threw me off. I was watching that and I was thinking, did I see what I just saw?
You did.
But now I got to talk about also the one unsavory element in this. Again, another rape scene. And I think this may have been the point. But when they do this in this film, and the woman is raped, it's all in one shot, and there's no music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you and the event.
Yeah.
With no buffers, nothing to make you.
There's nothing to soften it.
There's not soften. It's unsettling.
Very much so.
Yeah.
As that should.
As that should be. But it is. It's very. I don't know if they did that intentionally, but it is. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I like this one a lot better. The filmmaking in this one, the filmmaking is not as great. It got better as the series went along.
Yeah.
These first two films are not. They're very low budget. They're very trying things.
Right.
There's a lot of experimenting going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's some point of view shots that I thought were really interesting.
Well, these were put out. The first 4 were put out in 1972.
Right.
So that's like a Lone Wolf and Cub movie every quarter.
Yeah.
In 1972.
Every season. Yeah.
So these first 4, you see a very rapid progression of confidence in what they can do.
Yeah.
Because Sword of Vengeance, they did that was a new kind of a freedom
Yeah.
that Japanese filmmakers did not have
Mm-hmm.
previous. So that's why the 70s, the exploitation stuff really started to hit.
Yeah.
Because they were finally allowed to show these off-the-wall things. And remember, this was based on a manga.
Right.
Which are often off-the-walls insane.
Yeah. And so are the movies.
Yeah, they really take the comic aspect to their fullest.
Can we talk about the music?
Yeah.
The music reminded me very much of the blaxploitation genre.
Yeah.
Kind of a bass, kind of funky beat.
Yeah.
It's very 70s. It's very, very 70s.
Yes.
But it reminded me of something like Superfly,
Yeah.
something like that, or or Dolomite. It reminded me of that kind of music background.
Right.
And it's generally the same in all of them.
That is because,
It's the same guy.
except for the last one, they're all done by Hideki Sakurai.
Right.
The last one is Kunihiko Mirai.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 of the 6 of them have the same composer.
Right.
I think that's what sets these apart. There's so much of it. It's all the same cast.
Mm-hmm.
Tomosaburu Wakayama and Akihiro Tamakawa playing
Right.
Daigoro. They are not recast for any of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
The primary creative force, the screenplay for the first 4 are written solely by Kazu Koike, the co-creator of the manga.
Mm-hmm.
He co-wrote the 5th one, which probably he had an original screenplay and they sent it to somebody else to kind of beef up. And then he did not have anything to do with the 6th one, and the co-writer of the 5th one wrote the 6th one. So, because the books hadn't ended yet, he didn't want to make a film that preempted his ideas for his comics. So, the music is just it's incredible, and it's almost like you get the sense of where Tarantino got his kind of ideas for music, because he's definitely a very 70s exploitation film lover. So this would fall into that, and you can see bits of his stuff, especially Kill Bill, in here too.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Django Unchained.
A little bit, yeah.
So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Baby Cart to Hades. The plot structure of this one is very different.
Yeah.
This was almost kind of like a weird Greek mythology. The narrative style, at least. There's almost kind of a supernatural undercurrent, although there's not really a supernatural element in it. This is just what I got.
There's supernatural stuff boiling under the surface.
Yeah.
And it
really doesn't come out until the last one, though.
Not until the last one, because there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
That we could talk about when we get to the 6th one, but
this is the best looking of all of them.
Yeah.
Because there's some beautiful shots in this.
Yeah.
I think this is the one where Ito and the is pushing the pram across the horizon, and you see the sunset.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really beautiful shot.
It's beautiful, and it opens. It opens weird. It's a very different, like you were saying, a different sense, a different style. panorama shots,
Hmm.
um, really showing you the beauty of the countryside, which is not something that they really do in any of the other films.
Yeah.
Because the other ones are, I mean, you are down in the dirt.
You are. You are.
Like,
Um, this is, first of all, I want to mention this before I forget about it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that introduces the Gatling gun
I think
in
so, yeah.
the baby cart, which is really great. It's great. I love the Gatling gun, but I also love the blades in the spokes on the axle that cuts the guy's feet off.
Yeah. Cuts him off at the shit.
Yeah, cuts him off at the shin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But because I mean, his enemies just get chopped to bits. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's about as brutal as these special effects can make it. But um, the plot here is really disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
It's very representative of the first one. Um, it's got all of these samurai that he keeps coming up against.
This one is cool because it's the same guy at the beginning as at the end.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
you
but
see their history with each other.
the only problem is it comes up and then it's forgotten about until the end, and you think this is going to be his main antagonist for the rest of the series. No, he just kills him
Yeah.
because it kind of just ends.
Yeah. Well, his primary adversary is Retsuo Yagyu,
Yeah,
the chief of the Yagyu clan, or the Ura Yagyu clan. There's a Yagyu clan that's out in the open, and they're the respectable ones. But he also runs a shadow clan that is all
right.
sorts of up to no good, and he's like a crime lord
Hmm.
that's way up in the system of power, and he wants more and more power. And once Ogami gets kicked out, his clan gets to be the shogunate executioner.
Hmm.
And so the through line is that he keeps sending his sons to try to kill Ogami and keep him from exacting his revenge. And he runs out of sons by the end. He runs out of kids.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
Um, and he's like this. He's this puppet master that's really behind pretty much everything
Yeah,
that Ogami gets into. And it's not even on purpose.
yeah,
Like, they are so terrible that everything he walks into that people need an assassination, it's regarding or controlled by, or the Yagyus have their hooks in something going on in this entire province. And it's like every time he goes after somebody, it ends up
it has
being
something to do with that.
right. And every time somebody's after him, it ends up they're part of the group that he has to fight for to earn his 500 Ryu
Yeah,
gold coins. It's the way that they blend everything together. I really enjoy.
hmm
And this one, because this guy wants to be, he doesn't want to lose his samurai code, even though he's living as a mercenary.
yeah,
Much like Ogami does not fall prey into the bad behavior of the assassin or the rogue. He still lives as a samurai. He just, for money, kills
yeah.
people.
Hmm.
And when they duel, he doesn't even go after the guy. He
Yeah,
just stops and says, "I call it a draw. I want you to continue living like a samurai."
right.
Because there's so few who are still trying to live by the code.
Hmm.
And this messes with the kid.
Yeah.
like a lot. And, he's still a mercenary. He still ends up having to work for this guy that ends up being the adversary that he has to kill
Right.
at the end, and he re-challenges him to the duel. But it's kind of beautiful. There's an honor between them,
Yeah.
and
That's why I was hoping that he wouldn't kill him. I was hoping this would be kind of a guy that just kept coming back and being an adversary because, like I said,
not because he wanted to, but because he had to.
Well, most of these people that he comes up against are not. You're not really worried for him because you're thinking, okay, he's just going to chop these guys to bits.
Right.
And occasionally he runs up against somebody where you begin to fear for him.
Or
this
there's
guy
just so damn many people.
Well, even then, I'm not really worried about it because it has to be the individual. For me, it's the individual. The individual knows who he's up against, knows what he's looking at, knows who he's talking to, and therefore you fear for this person because you fear either some physical harm, psychological harm, something's going to change about this person because they run up against somebody who is an adversary that is equal to them.
Right.
When he walks into a place and there's just a bunch of random guys with swords,
yeah, no,
it's going to be a massacre.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rarely does he ever sustain an injury, and when he sustains an injury, it's usually plot related.
Yeah.
It's usually pointed out. I like this one. I like this one a lot.
This one's good. The honor of the samurai Kanbei and the subplot with the girl that he's protecting that was sold into prostitution, I adore that.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, really like that concept about it. Like he is defending innocence,
mm-hmm.
simultaneously robbing his son of it. But there are really nice spots where he does let Daigoro play.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sweet. He genuinely wants something different for his son, but he's not willing to stray from his path of vengeance. But
or unable to.
Yeah, or unable to.
He's
always kind of forced into it. If he weren't on the run, the Yakuza would be coming after him with everything.
It's kind of the old gunfighter story, you know, where the gunfighter wants to retire, wants to go into hiding, but every punk with a gun wants to come out of the shadows and try his hand at it.
Right.
And it's kind of like that. It's a very sad destiny.
Yes.
That he has to live through. Let's move on to the next one because the next one is Baby Cart in Peril.
Right. This is
my favorite as a film.
Really? This is the first one not directed by Kenji Misumi. It was directed by Buichi Saito.
Yeah. The story is a mess, but the filmmaking here is incredible.
Yeah.
The fight scenes here are more fluid. Not as many close-ups.
Uh-huh.
There's not as much editing in the fight scenes. It's shot beautifully. The unique element here, I love the scene where he goes to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys come out of the statues.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like nothing sacred.
Right.
Right. And I see a lot of Kill Bill in this, in that he's got to fight a stupid amount of enemies.
Yeah.
And the orientation of that scene is beautifully done because you know where everybody is. And it's not just hack and slash.
Right.
There's an orchestration to what's going on. So you get a visual sense of what's going on. As I said, this is probably Yeah, forgive me. This is probably the messiest plot.
Yeah, but
It's
it's also honestly, I think possibly my favorite in the series.
mm,
Basically, he's hired to kill this woman who is just going around and killing like anybody. She's been tattooed. She uses her beauty to her advantage to distract people, to distract men. So she can kill them. Um, and I think this one, he's a detective
yeah.
tracking her down. He goes and talks to the head of the clan that she was trained in. Turns out it's her father.
Mm-hmm.
They're all upset that she's gone this way. They're not angry at her. They're not the ones that are paying for him to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been taking the top knots off of samurai that she kills from this clan.
Right.
All because, well, she was raped,
Mm-hmm.
and
As every woman in this this thing is.
And so she's going after revenge,
Right.
on the clan and specifically the guy that raped her.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This one is a lot more patient, I think.
It does, but it kind of I will be honest, I kind of got lost a little bit in this one. Maybe because when I watched it, maybe because when I was watching, I was trying to get ready for work.
Well, when you watch these too close together, they do kind of bleed. The first time I watched these,
When you watch all of them together,
yes. when you watch them so close together, the first time I watched the series, I think I went through all 6 films in about 4 days.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. So they do start to blend and blur and everything. Yeah. When you rewatch them, as I did for this, a lot of the other aspects start coming out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not watching it for Ogami just cutting through what feels like the entire population of Japan,
mm-hmm.
each fight,
yeah,
you start to see the way that he interacts with Daigoro.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sweet.
Yeah, it has little moments, and you don't get that much in this series.
No.
Little moments. I guess if I saw this one again, maybe it would make a little more sense to me. I was, like I say, I was trying to get ready for work while I was watching this.
And this one is a decidedly, or I've read this and I agree with it, that it's a lowbrow entry.
Yeah.
Like it very much decided to take the low road. I mean, it opens on a shot of a woman's bare breasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get much more exploitive than
right.
Smash cut open boobs. And so, and then she murders people while she's topless. There's this whole big fight with her breasts hanging out and everything.
I think the only thing she's wearing is a field hat.
Well, yeah.
Get the sun out of her eyes.
Yeah.
While she's killing people.
You got to be able to focus.
You got to be able to focus.
So, but it's
a lot calmer as far as the frenetic pace of the last 2. This one, it's more in 4th gear.
Yeah.
But still, I the plot just kind of, for me, it was kind of. Now, the next one. If you said that if you said Baby Card in Peril was more lowbrow, that is not true of Baby Cart in the Land of Demons.
No.
This one is batshit.
Yes, it is.
I mean, this one had a different director, and it shows.
No, this is Kenji Misumi.
Is it the same one? Okay, I'm sorry.
He did 1 through 3 and 5.
Yeah. And the bigger problem that I've had with these is that the fight scenes are in the foreground, the plot's kind of in the background. Here it's the other way around.
Right. And this is like he fights a whole bunch of sub bosses before this could be adapted into a video game.
Yeah, this is a video game.
Yeah,
practically. He has to kill all these samurai sub bosses who are testing him.
Right, and giving him little bits of information.
Yeah.
We should know. We skipped over this. When he takes an assassination, he charges 500 gold coins, 500 ryu,
Yeah.
and demands all of the secrets and the reasons that the person should be killed, because he doesn't want to just go, oh, this guy slept with my wife, I want you to kill him. He's not going after that. He's going after big, hardcore, evil stuff.
They're destroying our land, and
they're destroying our people. They're going to ruin this noble clan. You know, he takes on assassinations that are high level.
It's not petty vengeance.
Right. This is high level state stuff.
Yeah.
And
well, the only thing about this is it has a better through line than the last one for me, because again, he's going up against each one of these and he gets this little bit of information. The problem with that is that it kind of drops out of the movie later on, and he just kind of kills everybody.
Yeah.
I'll say the action scenes in this one get a lot bigger and more elaborate.
Yes.
And also, the other thing that I love, and this is the unique element to this one gets drowned in moral ambiguity, which is what I wished that the rest of the series had done. Mm-hmm. It comes up in the first one, but it kind of takes a back seat in a lot of them to the fight scenes.
Yeah.
Because again, this one ends. He has to kill a child again. So it comes back to the moral ambiguity a little bit. And
then threaded throughout this one is this beautiful subplot with Daigoro, where this pickpocket woman runs up and hands him her handoff guy isn't there.
Yeah.
And she's a famous in the parts pickpocket.
Yeah.
And she's a quick change artist. Mm-hmm. And she finds Daigoro, and she goes, here, hold on to this for me and don't tell anybody, okay? Promise. And he is so rigid because of his father. He took the wallet and took that as his promise. And even when she confesses and when they are caning him, he doesn't cry out. He doesn't do it. He does not change his answer. That's not her. Until they finally realize that he is just keeping a promise that he made, even though she's telling him to forget it.
Yeah.
And it's this... That is a hardcore moral stance.
Yeah, it is.
And it's one that you would see his father make. Daigoro in this is just... It's almost
the biggest part that he has.
Yeah, with the exception of that the what is it, the third one where he's got the death life eyes that the samurai is talking about,
right,
in the field where they're burning the rice to get nutrients back into the soil, and he gets caught in the middle of it. He just digs down and hides under it, and he's fine. He knows how to save himself.
Yeah. Well, this one, he also he has a wonderful scene where someone tries to poison the tea.
Yeah.
And so he has a little bit more to do in this one, and he notices it. And it's... he has so little to do in the other ones that I notice when he does. He doesn't have a massive role in this other than to sit and look cute. But I like the character that he creates. I mean, it's this little kid.
Yeah.
And I like the character that he creates. It's sort of like the Baby Yoda character, who doesn't have a lot to do.
No, but when he does...
Right. It's effective.
It's important, yeah.
It's important.
I just want to say quick here on this one. This was Kenji Misumi's last Lone Wolf and Cub film, and his second to last film before he died in 1975.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I know that.
He was a big director in the Zatoichi films too.
Yeah.
And you can kind of feel that here. But yeah, I just wanted to. That's why he didn't.
Yeah.
Why he was ill, and also thought that they were turning into westerns.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to do the last one.
Okay. Speaking of the last one.
Holy crap.
Oh, wow. This is where I think the series flew off the rails.
So there's a reason for that.
This is White Heaven and Hell.
Yes. Screenplay by Tsutomu Nakamura, who co-wrote the previous one, In the Land of Demons. Now, because Misumi wasn't coming back, and Misumi was an industry pro, like an old school guy, Tomosauro Wakayama wanted to get into the weirder stuff in the mangas.
Boy, did he ever!
But because Misumi was there, and he was kind of he was an older school director, he didn't want to get into things that ungrounded it.
Yeah.
So, with him gone and Wakayama still an executive producer on it, he hires a young director that he can kind of get his what he wants
his film
out of it. So the zombie warriors and the weird bodilessness of the
they burrow out of the sand or burrow out of the ground.
They dig a little bit, and then they travel like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. Well, here we are, Pismo Beach, and all the clams we can eat. I just had to say that.
As at one point, I really thought that they were going to poke up and said I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. I'll just ask this gent the fancy knickerbockers.
And
Excuse me, pardon me, but
yeah. So
this one, oh my God, this one. I'm just gonna say I threw my hands up with this one because
this one is weird. This one is.
It throws into supernatural elements, the zombie ninjas. It's the storyline is very generic.
Well,
it's too weird.
They knew that this was going to be the last one, so they wanted to wrap up the Ogami Yagyu. So most of this is about wrapping up the plot that was.
Most of this is just why not.
Right, exactly. It's let's see how weird we can get, and it gets
now. We'll
weird.
say the one unique element in this that I think is really effective is winter.
Yeah,
it takes place in
when
winter.
When he's sliding, when he's got the skis on the pram.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guys on skis. This is action porn. I mean, it is.
Oh yeah.
The guys on skis. I love that.
Yeah.
But honestly, the movie wasn't written. It was. It does not feel written. It feels pasted together.
Mm-hmm.
There's long scenes, and it's not a long movie. No. There are long scenes that feel like they go on for days where nothing is happening.
And then there's just an explosion of massive
of violence. Action porn.
Yeah.
The plot kind of comes in sideways.
Yeah.
The Edo Shadow Clan has lost everyone except their their head honcho,
and he's got a daughter.
and he's got a daughter, and they go looking for Ito, and the guy doesn't even get killed. He just gets away at the end.
Yeah, but he's dishonored.
He's
He's
dishonored.
disgraced. The whole clan kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to tell you something. It's going to surprise you. I've seen this before.
really,
And I didn't realize it until I started watching it. When I was a little kid, this is before cable really became a huge thing.
right,
On Sunday afternoons, there was a UHF station and a VHF station.
right.
And the UHF station always showed the what was called the Chopsaki Theater, which
Right.
was the
They were not as governed by the FCC.
right. They always showed the Kung Fu pictures.
Yeah.
The UHF station always showed the Godzilla pictures.
Right.
And the monster movies.
Uh-huh.
But I saw this one when I was a little kid, and I didn't recognize it until I started watching it. I was like, okay, I've seen this before. I just didn't know what it was. So I'd seen this. I remembered elements from it,
Yeah, there are a lot of memorable elements in this film.
and as I remember correctly, it was badly dubbed because they all were.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This one,
Quite racist when they did when they showed this, because I mean they called it Chopsaki Theater,
yeah,
and when you went to commercial, they would have a trivia question, and it was called the Brain Chopper. Written in that weird Asian font.
was there a white guy with his eyes taped back that was the host?
No, I don't think so. But
Okay, well,
it was always that. And whenever they did whenever they went to the commercial to do the Brain Chopper, it was that weird. It was that weird music that.
yeah.
Yeah. That ding 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 ding.
Uh-huh.
You know, that kind of thing. It was just horrifying.
Yeah. But
anyway, I
one-
saw the movie and I was sitting there going, "Wait a minute, I've seen this before." I think it was the Zombie Ninjas, because
you know what? That could have been
this
it.
looks familiar.
Or it could have been the beautiful looking and terrifyingly graphic final battle in the snow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wakayama always wanted to do a fight scene in the snow. That's why that's here. This is the.
I like it because it's unique. It's different than the other ones.
It goes completely out. This is the kind of movie that over here Spielberg would have made with no one telling him, yeah, maybe you shouldn't include that.
Yeah.
This is a wouldn't it be cool if movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of it's just nobody saying, yeah, maybe this doesn't make sense. It's, all right, let's do it.
Steven,
The Lost World.
Yeah. Crystal Skull.
Yeah. It's like, maybe this doesn't work. No, but it'd be cool if we saw it. Let's put it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a film comprised of what would be Steven Spielberg's bad decisions.
Yeah.
But it turns into a very entertaining film.
These were entertaining. I don't know if I'm going to run back to them right away, but
I would
these were
recommend
entertaining.
seeing them again because it deepens them as you watch them a little bit more. You see that there's a lot more to it than just the action sequences.
I'm curious about the TV show.
Me too. And there were a couple of other films that were done remakes.
That other film that I didn't get to.
Shogun Assassin.
Is that Shogun Assassin?
Yeah.
I've not.
Well,
I didn't get to that one.
Technically, you've seen it though, because
I've seen all the other films.
Right. All they did was take the second one, Baby Cart at the River Styx, edit in some of the backstory of Sword of Vengeance, and then dub it, and then release it. It's basically the second film.
Okay.
It's really good, though.
Yeah.
The dubbing isn't as atrocious as one normally ascribes to these kinds of films.
I will say this. In the years since, dubbing has gotten a lot better.
It's still terrible, though.
It's still terrible. They mostly do it in anime films.
Right.
Because they'll get a real actor.
Right,
you know,
and they do
American
a real
actor.
translation, and they actually try to do the film instead of a lot of what happened with these in the 70s when they were brought over here is that they would kind of write their own plot and then cut the movies and do the dialogue with a different storyline.
Yeah.
Ultimately made fun of by Woody Allen in What's New Pussycat.
Mm-hmm. I love that movie.
Or no, What's Up Tiger Lily?
What's Up Tiger Lily, yeah. I promised her a part in the film.
Yeah. So
that movie ends with a credit sequence where he's laying on a couch eating an apple, and there's this Asian woman who's stripping, and at one point he stops her and he looks at the camera and he says, "I promised her a part in the film."
Yeah. So,
sorry.
That's it. Shogun Assassin. Actually, I came to this series because of Shogun Assassin. Not because I watched Shogun Assassin and then sought out the rest of them, but because it is ever so briefly mentioned and you hear the beginning of it in Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find out more about these, and I found out about them. I looked for them. I couldn't find them, and then the glorious people at the Criterion Collection put this into a box set.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more thankful to them for that.
It's like me when I saw Jackie Brown, I became interested in Helmet Burger.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, okay, now I want to see that. And because of Tarantino, became interested in directors like Wong Kar-wai. Mm-hmm. Because there was a time in the 90s when he wasn't directing the films, but he was re-releasing a lot of the films, right. And it was Quentin Tarantino Presents.
Right. He was using his clout to get a lot of Asian cinema over here.
Right, right. And he was hoping to get kids interested in films as he was.
Yeah.
And I think he's doing that through his own films.
Yes. Because his own films are just... every shot is a nod to a different movie.
I can imagine he's seen this series many times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's a good series. I was entertained by it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not high art.
No.
But it is damn entertaining, and the more times you see it, the deeper the story gets, and it gets better. It gets easier to understand.
Yeah.
It gets easier to follow. So I think that's it for our sojourn into exploitation, bloody paint.
Well, next week we're moving from one brutal culture to another.
Yeah.
There's been a schedule change due to the fact that, due to availability, we're not going to be talking about Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored, because
I could not find that to save my life.
It's out of print. I didn't realize that.
And it is
and I
nowhere.
Hate that.
It is.
And I hate that because it's a beautiful film. It's directed by Tim Reed. I saw it in the theater, and I loved it. But instead, next week we're going to celebrate Valentine's Day by going back to Mr. Martin Scorsese.
It's Scorsese's year, apparently, this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the third Martin Scorsese movie we'll be talking about, and not the last one.
This is the third, and it's only February. It's only we're not even in February yet.
Third Scorsese movie of the year, yeah.
And So next week we're going to be talking about The Age of Innocence.
I do love this film.
I do too. I saw this in the theater.
I did not.
Because at that time I was having a weird, yes, at this point I was having a weird love fest for Siskel and Ebert, and I was taking every recommendation that they had to heart, and they went crazy over this one.
For good reason.
And I think it's not like, Bringing Out the Dead, where Roger was just fawning over it because it was Scorsese, but
right.
It's a beautiful film. It's a sad film. It's based on a book by Edith Wharton.
A very good book.
Which I, points for trying, tried to read.
Oh, I read it.
I tried to. I couldn't.
I ended up reading it after watching this for like the second or third time.
It's a lovely film.
It's wonderful. I recently, because it's Scorsese, this got put out onto the Criterion Collection, and during one of their sales, I went and got it because it's Scorsese and it's The Age of Innocence and it's Criterion. The third of his movies to be released into the Criterion Collection, and our second Scorsese film of the year, The Irishman, will be on the Criterion Collection later this year.
Really? Well, that was fast.
Yes. Well, Roma's coming in, being in the collection in the next couple of months, and I guess Netflix made a big deal for The Irishman and American Factory and a few others, and I think The Other Side of the Wind is coming too.
This Criterion
Collection. Oh, Marriage Story is the other one.
Yeah. This Criterion Collection, kids, if you don't know, you want to try to explain to the kids what the Criterion Collection is, because I get this question a lot, because there's a lot of people who've never heard of it.
It is self-described. The Criterion Collection is a continuing series of important classic and contemporary films. So the parent company is Janus Films, and they are a heavy dealer in older non-American movies.
Right.
And over time, Criterion's gotten a whole bunch of, it became the benchmark for impossible to find non-American, but quality. They restore the movies themselves, and it's been within the last several years that they made a partnership with Warner's, and Warner's is opening up their catalog to them.
Right. They've gotten more and more respectful. I mean, I think initially people were reluctant to put their films on the Criterion Collection, I think because a lot of people didn't know what it was.
Right.
But over time, it has become
a benchmark of quality.
Yeah, now it's a benchmark of quality. And to have your film to have your film on the Criterion Collection is a real honor.
Yes.
The first film that I got from the Criterion Collection was The Last Temptation of Christ.
I think mine was Brazil.
It's a beautiful, beautiful representation, or a beautiful addition to the film.
Yeah.
What I love are the older films.
Yeah.
Because they are treated with loving care.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get these films on DVD, and they look like they were just slapped on there to sell you something.
That is not the case with the Criterion Collection.
That is not the case with the Criterion
Collection. They will spend years remastering and rehabilitating and getting the prints up. They scan them from the original negative elements and they restore them.
Yeah.
Many times with a 4K.
I have the one for Rebecca. Which, boy, they treated that like gold.
I have the first time they put out Rebecca on DVD.
That's the one I have.
I don't have the remastered one on Blu-ray, which they.
Yeah, I don't have the one on Blu-ray. But they did. They treated that with loving care, and it shows because the information they have on it, the documentaries they have on it,
They've got hours and hours and hours of special features on movies that you couldn't even guess how they would have gotten.
The only problem are the commentaries. Because they'll
Not
do these
all of them, but some of them.
A lot of them, they'll do these commentaries with experts.
Yeah.
Who are used to speaking in a classroom or in lecture halls.
Right.
And that tone does not work in a commentary because it's like you're listening to somebody who's reading notes and it drones.
Yeah, it can.
It can. It's just, it's frustrating. I got the one, it was one of Fellini's films, and I'm listening to the guy. I think it was it might have been Amarcord, but I'm sitting there listening to that one. And it's just frustrating because the guy has a monotone, and he's just giving you information about background information about stuff, and it's just, there's nothing. It's not like listening. I love listening to Scorsese talk about his films.
Yeah, endlessly.
Although it is interesting that when he does a commentary at the beginning, he'll always say, "This is Martin Scorsese. I'm directing the film," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, we know that."
Well, all right. I think.
Anyway, that's what we got next week.
And I'm very much looking forward to revisiting The Age of Innocence. It's been a while. And
I'm going to do that today.
I haven't watched my Criterion copy of it yet, so this gave me an excuse to sit down with it. That about wraps it up here for us and Ito Ogami, Daigoro, the Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yes.
You can find all of our back episodes at thepodbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can find us on iTunes and on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that handle over on Patreon. Find us there. Same one, pod_bay. Kick us a few dimes if you can. Greatly appreciate it.
Brother King spare a dime.
That's a good movie. We thank you very much for listening, and the pod bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
Long ago in a distant land, I, Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness, unleashed an unspeakable evil. But a foolish samurai warrior wielding a magic sword stepped forth to oppose me. Before the final blow was struck, I tore open a portal in time and flung him into the future, where my evil is law. Now the fool seeks to return to the past and undo the future that is Aku.
Gotta do that, back to the past, samurai jack. Gotta do that, back to the past, samurai jack. Check. Gotta do that, back to the past, samurai jack. Gotta do that, back to the past, samurai jack. Check. Gotta do that, check. Watch it.